Hi everyone, and welcome back to Balkan Sis, the show that's going to help you navigate the massive challenges of life, motherhood, culture, identity and belonging with more ease, acceptance, joy and purpose. Thanks to each and every one of you that come back every time to listen, learn, heal and feel inspired. If you do love the podcast, then do me a huge favour and hit the subscribe button. It really does help spread the word. Hello everybody!
Hey.
Welcome back to episode number 2, to part 2 of Balkan Sis with our Luciana Franicevic on relationships and boundaries. I have a special guest here. Need to say hello. Say hi.
Hi.
What's your name?
6.
You're 6. What's your name?
7.
So this is my little Vito here, my little son. And I'm just editing. I'm just keeping it real, guys. I'm editing the episode and I thought it would be great to have Vito come and say hello. Say ciao. Say do widzenia. So I wanted to get him in quickly for him to say hello because he was very curious about what I was doing. But without any further ado, we're going to dive back into part 2 with Luciana. I hope that you enjoyed the first episode. I definitely learned a lot about myself, a lot about others. And I hope, part 2 is just as awesome for you. Let me know what takeaways you got from this episode. And wherever you are in the world, Vito and I and my little kitty, we are sending you lots of love and lots of light and big hugs. And looking forward to catching up with you guys on Insta, online. Reach out and connect with me if you get a chance. And here's part number 2. So relationship. Yeah, 100%. And how do you feel about this whole wave of, I don't know what it's like in Croatia. I don't live there, but obviously, you are active on Instagram and Facebook and everything. So how do you feel about, AKA mentor and, and coaches and everything? Obviously there's a space for everybody, but even counseling, it's an unregulated industry. So then how do you feel like that's all on par with, because it's such a mixed bag now with everything. It's almost like people aren't even really seeing psychologists because it's so hard to access them and it is expensive, that instead they just book in 12 sessions with a coach. So
Yeah.
it's really
Well,
at the moment.
yeah, I hear you. And, initially I was thinking, oh gosh, there's the unregulated industry of coaching and people are not necessarily getting the experience and the education that they need from a professional to be able to get what they need out of the session. But I'm more and more kind of coming back to that point that I was saying before, accepting things for what they are. So there are people who will seek psychologists specifically, and there are care plans that they can get with that, and they'll pay a part of that fee. They'll be on the wait list. There are some people that look for bulk psychologists. There are other people that look for healers. There are other people that look for counselors. And these people are not covered by Medicare, so it's a full fee. I'm an online therapist. That doesn't work for everyone. I'm a full fee therapist. It's not one size fits all. And I do believe there's a space for everyone and people have their own agency in being able to decide what they're looking for and who they should turn to for that.
Yep.
Some people might value spiritual stuff. Because I think in fairness, psychology does cross over into spiritual stuff. A lot of the some of the sessions will delve into that part of life for people and what maybe priests and healers used to do before. Sometimes psychologists are in place for people today. So I think what I'm saying is, sometimes people just want to see a psychic, or they want to go see a healer, they want to see Reiki because they feel like that's more effective or that's where they're at. And I think it's good that we have the freedom to choose.
Yeah.
And we should.
100%. And how do
Yeah.
you are you missing that connection, like that human connection and sitting in a room of people? Like how are you sort of managing that online presence? And obviously, because when you're, in a room with somebody, it's energy, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
so how has that adjustment been for you? Because obviously you're highly
Yeah.
athletic and, you're really deep and, you're crossing over that you're more I would say in a holistic manner, because you're not separating the mind from the body, the spirit,
Sure.
like attacking
Yeah.
being. So then, how has that been for you? Like being purely online now?
Well, it's one client that I speak to with just audio call. Everyone else I'm on video call, and this is by client's choice. And I think even through audio, you pick up on the body language, and you're kind of in tune because you can't see, so you're in tune with what the person's saying. Um, Add video to it, and I honestly, I didn't really know what to expect to have the entire practice move online. Well, all the people that wanted to come through and the new ones. And I bring 100% in, and I love people. So I honestly don't hold back on anything that they would otherwise have in session. So all the techniques we do, all the role plays, all of that we still do in this space. So personally, that's been the same because my endeavor to really kind of just go full in, and every session is a session for itself. And I'm so curious, I never know what's going to unfold. And that keeps it super interesting and fun for me. I actually I really enjoy it.
I love it. It's like I enjoy it over. It's like having like this whole like transformational thing happening, just like in your little part of the world. Like, so how do you then protect your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health? Like obviously you mentioned you have mentors and you have,
Yes.
people help you and you therapists. And, how do you, like being in Croatia, obviously do you still find you're challenged? Like, do you still did you feel like asserting boundaries here was a lot easier than what it is over there? Like, how many
Yes.
days you haven't set boundaries in Croatia? I'd just like to know, is there like a tally? Do you keep account?
I'm going to get a little book and just sort of okay, it's time to
Like, every time you count to someone, you just like probably the waitress. We're going to check out.
something like that. Oh my God. Yes. Hang on. What was the question? How many times in a day? 100 million. No. No. Can I say, because I was prepared and expected that was going to be the most challenging part, I went in with that attitude and I'm going to have to disappoint some people, and really look after myself. So that's actually what I did. And that was tough and challenging, but luckily I was also able to have some conversations with people, and express why I set certain boundaries with them and what they have meant for me. And yeah, I think it's now at a better place than I guess imagined they would be, in so many ways. So I don't have as many challenges now. Now that you asked that question, I'm reflecting on it. I'm like, when I first came in, it was like literally 20 times a day. It's like, oh, no, I'm working. No, you need to leave. No, you can't have coffee here because I actually have a laptop in front of me and I'm working. But with time and with persistence and being able to embody that attitude that I guess try and teach people, is to stay honest and to stay at it. And it's hard. And to accept that it's hard. And you ask me, what do I do now? It's like, well, yeah, the social support, the exercise, that's a huge one. And I live in a really cool spot that I really love. So this place speaks to me, and so I'm here by choice. And I think what a privilege I should be able to do that, because you said before, sometimes, we don't choose that. The culture that we're in sets the parameters.
Yeah.
And I think by moving here, I was able to really kind of find some sort of balance with that. But there are days like yesterday when I was telling you that I was telling you about. I'm like, okay, I've gone way over. Like an hour ago, I should have been out of the house and up in the hill. So now I'm feeling it in my body. So I need to go up the hill like now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
how
about paying
do you,
attention.
do you ever miss Australia? Like, do you ever miss your days here, or are you like completely content? Like, nah, like this is where I need to be. Like, do you sometimes reflect, like, because I often like wonder, oh, what would my life have been like had we had stayed there? Like, it's just a thought. It's never, something that I fully entertain, as in like that I'm sad about being here. It's not that. It's more just like, wow, like would have liked like if we had stayed there, if what hadn't happened. It's a normal question. And then also like, being content with what you do have, not always seeking more. Because I feel like people over there really, they get the memo. It's like they are happy just living in their little house with like a few little windows and walking down to the water and having a coffee. Like honestly, they're just content with small stuff. Whereas here it's like
Yeah.
new car, new phone, new this, new. It's always like keeping up, So it's been really, for me, especially being a young mum and having my son, is like of just unlearning and slowing down, So it's
Yes,
the constant work in action. Like it's a
it is.
daily thing. It's like intentionally resting, oh, I'm yawning. Okay, I should lay down.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
like, oh, okay, I'll just sleep tonight, and leaving it's like I can't afford to do that anymore.
Good. So that's the nuance we're talking about. You're listening to your body and actually paying attention.
Yeah. How do you feel like
Yeah.
your environment has helped you though? Like to change that notion?
Well, because I knew the environment was that and it encouraged that, I would come here for holiday and go, oh, we're socializing and eating and stuff. And then I'd come back to Australia. And I remember once when I came back, this never happened, but, it was like a one off. Um, I went down to grab a coffee and it was lunchtime. And I think I saw my uncle was there with his friend and then my partner had joined and we ended up having this lunch for like 2 hours or something. And I used to sometimes just eat lunch, at the computer and just like, let's go. So I was like, wow, I'm having a Croatia experience. Like, but
Yeah.
it's just a lunch. Like I want to hang out here with these people. So I think being in the place that allows for that really helps.
Yeah.
So I think I made the right decision with that. Um, yeah, I think that
Encourage. How can
it
people,
encourages that.
like here or in other places of the world that they're listening? Obviously, we have a lot of Western listeners, in busy places. So what are some tips you can give them for them to, encourage that in their own lifestyle, even if it's difficult, even if it's going against the grain? And even if they can't have as much leisurely time as they would in other places, but what are some tips you can give them to implement in their day-to-day lives?
Okay. So I would say some of the things that we've talked about today. So defining who the people that are your support people are and making sure that you're in some sort of touch with them. So, being away from some of those people because they're in Australia. For me, we do that through voice messages on WhatsApp. So there's like constant updates. Then you listen in your own time and you can respond and you still feel connected. The other thing is, like you said, yawning, like, can I just give myself a 15-minute or a 20-minute nap? Do I have to wait till tonight?
Yeah.
So maybe just kind of noticing little pleasures that you can do. And moving your body, I think is always one of them. For me, that is. So that's how my energy is able to get out. Without that, it's just, I don't know how I would deal with that. So being in nature. um, so I think taking small steps is the way to go with that. Baby steps.
Yeah.
So it may seem like a small thing for you when you yawn and you actually pay attention to it, but I think, well, imagine a day where you don't listen to that, and then a day where you do, and that tiny thing of 15 minutes can make all the difference.
Yeah.
Because even some research that they've done in America, and I can't remember now. If you're interested, I'll find the link to it. They were looking at how people function best at work of an afternoon when usually people hit like the sugar, 3 o'clock, the 3 o'clock, right? So they were looking at a nap, a walk, and chocolate. And the walk wasn't the one that came on top, it was the sleep. So having like a little moment of 15 minutes or so to have a break and a reset can make all the difference. There's a reason why the Europeans have siesta. And you don't have to be in Europe to actually bring a little piece of Europe there. It is possible.
And the split shifts too, you know, when they say like, oh, I'm working first shift, second shift, and you're like, what? Druga smjena, druga smjena.
Yeah.
Have the same days, you know, it's like my auntie, when I went there last, and it's been a long time, you know, she's like, oh, I can't remember what it was for, like someone's birthday or something for me. She said, what's your favorite cake? And she's like, oh shit, like the shops are closed, you know, because it's a day. And I was just like, what the hell? It's like same day every day, you know? And she's like, that's okay. We'll go across the border because they're living clean. And she said, we'll go across the border to Boston and we're going to get some ingredients there. And we'll literally just cross the border and go to the shop. And when we come back. And to me, it was such like a ridiculous notion because of the same day, you're going to close everything that people need. But the thing is, it's like people grab what they need. It's there. And then if they need 2 eggs, they go to the neighbor. If they need a bit of milk, if they need a bit of sugar, like it's just different. And it was just straight feeling it in my body as well when I was there. I was like getting frustrated because the waiter was taking his time, like, because I'm like, can you do this cocktail? He's like, no. I'm like, but you're a bar. Like, you know, but then he's like, oh, I'll do my own fusion. And then he comes back and it's like all half vodka. Like I'm so
this much vodka.
Vodka with majority ice, like, which I'm like, alcohol just came in the room. But yeah, it was interesting, like, noticing my body in and out of those phases. And even today I was like, I need to nap because I knew I was going to have a late phone call with you. And I was feeling really exhausted and I have been really tired and I haven't been honoring it. And it was funny how like I was resisting at first, you know, it was like resisting taking it for a nap. But then once you close your eyes and you actually surrender to it, bloody zonked out for like an hour. And I was just like, oh my God, I felt alive when I woke up. And I was just like,
that's what we're talking about.
God, like why?
Yeah.
And just fucking struggle, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, but this is like what you're saying makes so much sense. So you're like a physical person in that way. Someone else will say, you know, like I've got a client who likes to draw things when we talk. So, you know, for that person, it will be about allowing themselves some time to do art. And others don't listen to music as much as they want to. So it's those little tiny baby steps that we can all take no matter where. And you mentioned neighbors, and it's like, you know, again, you can be in Australia and do like I did a neighborhood barbecue when I bought my place, and I was like, everybody come, I want to meet you because I want you to knock on my door and I want to know who you are. And so that's like a little thing that you can do, but you kind of all of a sudden feel connected because you know who's living next door. It doesn't have to be those people just moved in and I don't know, they're from who knows where.
Bring their own beers and their own sausage.
Yeah, it was my sausage.
When I'm listening, it's this whole thing in Australia, BYO, so bring your own. So how do you say that in Croatian? Like, donesi svoje, donesi šta, donesi pi. It's like,
they don't have that.
So bring that own. Imagine you in Croatia and then going out for dinner and they're like, bring your own rakia, bring your own bread, it's like by the time you buy the present, by the time you bring the food, you bring everything. You may as well, I don't know why that person's even hosting.
Yeah, it's really funny.
First experience as well in Australia where like we had a barbecue in a park and I brought so much stuff. Of course I did because I have scarcity issues. And then we get to the barbecue and it's like they're all grilling meats in different sections. And then all of a sudden they all got confused whose was what. And they're like, oh, can we take some of your salad? Can we take it? And I'm like, it's for everybody. Like, it was just so foreign. And I couldn't wrap my thinking around it. My husband's like, this is just what happens, babe. It's just what people do. Whereas for us, it was just always like open home, open. And once again, you know, everything's open. Come, just be, just eat, just love. But then with that, there's no boundaries either. So it's sort of like,
that's what I mean.
Like, do have those boundaries.
Yeah.
Yes, do come. Yes, take my love. But at the same time, help me, like bring something of yours. You know, let's do this together. So it's like being together, but in a different way. That should be a community.
I love it. That's such a good way of putting it. And thank you for putting it that way. That's being together, but in a different way. Because one of the things about Australian, you know, barbecues is that you can show up maybe more often because you all bring in a plate. And I love that. You know, so there's no pressure on one person to do it. And also, you know, the way that we do birthdays in Croatia and Australia is different because, you know, here the birthday person pays. Over there, people pay for you. Because it's your birthday, so they want to shout you, you know? So there's no wrong way. It's just the way, wrong way or the right way, but it's kind of like, what is your way to manage that and to make sense of it? Because there's good in all of that.
Yeah, 100.
They're good in both sides, good in both. And the good thing here is that people want to host you and they want to do it all and all that. But then you got to look at the pressure and the boundaries that come with that. And sometimes maybe they don't have the money, but they want to put it on for you. So it's
Oh,
like,
you know what?
oh,
It's wonderful when you're on the receiving end of that. And then that person makes you feel like, but this is what I love doing. This brings me joy. Like, so my sister, she's like, this brings me joy. I love doing this for others. So don't take that away from me. Like, it's joyous for me. I'm like, okay.
yeah,
But then I watch my grandma, my baba. She only died like, okay, some people say it's a long life, but she was 76, and considering some people live to their 90s, like to me, that was young. But, and
yeah,
seeing her get dementia and seeing her develop Alzheimer's and everything, it was really painful to watch. And now the way I live my life, I've severely changed the way I live my life because I don't want
wow,
it to be my outcome.
yeah,
Like she was my role model and I loved her and I still love her. And I always get so teary when I talk about her. But
that's
it's like,
okay.
saw like how to do things and then also not how
Yeah,
to do things too.
yeah,
Watching her die and watching that process, it was just like, she killed herself for others. And I
yeah,
felt real joy to her and he brought love and he filled her cup, but it also took all, there was no needs from her. There was nothing that for her being with us was enough. But I want to
yeah,
start my life in a way that I have in the last few years of I can love, I can open my heart, I can, open, but I also had to start saying no because the repercussions
yeah.
of not doing that is getting sick eventually, and it will
Wow.
catch up with you, because
Yeah,
every time you say no to that nap or no to be creative or no, like, no, I just keep going, there is always a price to pay, like what you said. You're either paying it in a form of relationships or you're paying it in a,
so true.
so you have to,
So true.
which
You've got
one?
to accept it. Exactly. You've got to accept it. And that's so cool. Like you did mention your grandma before, and she sounds so cool. And she sounds like a lot of grandmas here. And I think that is the beauty of being so giving. But unless there is a limit or a boundary around that so that you can actually take care of yourself, you're learning from her not having the boundaries and learning, like you said, she was an unknowing teacher about how not to be as well in some ways.
Oh,
Because we don't have to suffer,
with
Yeah.
culture. Like you see the funny videos that are out there on Instagram or TikTok, and you see like what's being mimicked, in the culture, especially by the young generation and all these like now YouTube stars, and you're seeing it like women are gratified when they do a lot of these.
Yeah.
They're gratified. Like the thing is, it's celebrated within society when you have no boundaries as a woman because it's actually normal or healthy or nice for a woman to have boundaries. And if a woman does, she's a bitch. And
Yeah.
and this is a whole other topic in the whole gender.
Oh my gosh, isn't it ever? Yeah.
Like men have no issues with just doing something. They just do it. They don't need to ask, whereas if you ask like a girl or a group of girls, what do you guys want to eat? They'll turn to each other and they'll, oh, what do you want? Whereas when you ask the boys, it's like, they already know. So it's like from such a young age, it's being bred into us, like the whole lack of boundaries. It just not be non-existent because like,
Yeah.
like I've never seen the males in my life not have healthy boundaries. It's already there. It's like already in their DNA.
I would disagree with that to a point. But I do think culturally, yes, there is that good girl syndrome. And I think it's more highlighted with women. But I do think that for a lot of men, it's an issue. And I would say um, uh, everywhere, but even here, in terms of family and loyalty and friendships, and there's a lot of kind of pressure to do the right thing and to be the good guy. So I think that does come with the territory of, oh shit, I have to set boundaries and I don't want to be the bad guy. So I do think it's a more universal thing.
Because it's like you're a man, so you have to adhere by a certain social,
Exactly.
which you might
Yeah.
have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody to go have a beer or something like that, whatever, like, yeah, I totally understand. And
Yeah. Yeah.
either, like you said, the whole cultural dynamic is fascinating because us being in, like, having out both beauty, like, it's like you've got one foot here, you got one foot there. It's like you're living
So
this
true.
parallel line.
Yeah.
Just love what you're doing with it. And I love the education around it. And I love, just learning from you, like being online and reading what you write and just learning from it and you taking the time out
Oh,
to
thank you.
together, like it does impact in a positive way. So that's why I pulled up some of your, because I actually want to ask you these questions that you've been asking others. And some of my favorites are, hang on, I just want to which are relevant to what we've discussed. But the first question I want to ask you that you posted on Facebook a little while ago was, what do you want to improve most about yourself?
What do I want to?
Says, what do you want to improve? Okay. What do you want to improve about yourself the most?
There are a few things. I would say one thing that's an ongoing thing for me is the inner critic work. And that's, I recognize the importance of the inner critic because that person makes you want to do better and kind of pushes you in a way. But my inner critic can be just a pain in the ass. And so I sometimes really struggle with her because she's just like, she's the antidote of some of these things that we've been talking about. And I'm like, for God's sakes, woman, I'm in Croatia, leave me alone. No, you got to get this done. And it's like, oh. So yeah, we have
Beyonce.
We have very vivacious arguments with each other. Sorry?
Beyonce has an alter ego, so hey, it's like you're Beyonce on one side and then the bitch on the other. So they're without each other, right?
Yeah. I have to name mine. She doesn't have a name yet, but she's definitely there. She's hardcore. She really is hardcore.
Oh my God.
I like her. I'm starting to like her more, but she's just. Sorry, I need to come up with
her name. I think everybody should vote in. I think everyone should jump on your Instagram, my Instagram.
Oh my gosh! Yes,
like
what a great idea.
Name. That would be awesome. So I want to know what people have gathered from the conversation, and I want to know, what would be their alter ego name, and then what's the name that would give your alter ego? That'd be great.
But can I use this? Can I use this as another question on Facebook page? I'll do it today. I'll put down like your, I don't know, tag you or something, whatever, to acknowledge that it was yours. Okay, thank you.
I love it. Embracing all of it. And the whole point of the conversation is like it's not black and white. It's like it can all exist in the same place. And another question that you had as well, which I absolutely loved, is who has been your most valuable teacher and why?
Whoa. Oh my gosh. My most valuable teacher. I've got so many. Seriously,
what's your number one that you have to in order?
Okay, if I'm really, I would have to say my mentor. She's been around with me and through some really very shitty times. And I mentioned her before. I've had a couple of mentors, but she is a standout because, well, I've learned so much from her. I got into psychotherapy because of her. And that's kind of a little bit different to psychology. So more of this in-depth work that we're talking about, less structured. And she's just, she's cheered me on and also just gone, what the hell are you doing when I needed that? So I've learned so much. And she's someone that I saw first in 2011 to 12. So it was a breakup that I had at that time. And then also my dad died. And later on that year. So it was really well timed. And so, I don't know how I would have pulled through some of those things without that kind of support.
Yeah, that's
and then in that, and then I'll throw in like shitloads of other people. We'd need like a whole other half hour for that. Was the answer to that question?
Because I think it takes a village. And I remember when people used to say, before I had Vito, it takes a village, to raise a baby, to raise a child. And I just I never really understood that actually. Like you can understand a lot of things, but you don't really understand it till you're in it. And then once I was in it, I was just like, whoa, like this one person who's got him, and then I'm trying to do this, and then Angel's trying to do, and I was just like, yeah, wow, like just it's a whole orchestra just to like go to go, and so like it does make sense. You can't just have that one top person. Everyone influences you, from the shopkeeper to your parents to this to that. But same thing as well. Like, I probably have like top 3 people. I wouldn't be able to dilute it to one. So you did well. Like it. Thank you. I do have a couple of questions because I did put a little question box on my stories on my Instagram. And a few people wrote in, some people texted, and it was actually really great. And I think when I said relationships and boundaries, I think people it's very broad. So they were like, what do you mean? Like boyfriends or this or that? I was just like, whatever, do whatever you reckon. So one person, so Angela, she's from Brisbane, and her thing was around relationships, and it was around men. And she's a young girl, and she's beautiful and very successful, but she's having troubles dating. So yeah, it's like she didn't really have a direct question, but it was more like once she gave the guy what they wanted, it was like they were gone. Pretty much like we're living in that digital age where people are on Tinder and they're just swiping. So there isn't a lot of connection going on. So for her, it's sort of like she's trying to navigate that dating world. Would you have any tips for her?
Sure. I would say that she needs to ask for more of what she wants. So, for example, if she's on a dating site or something, to maybe be honest about who she is, and to require something of these people that she's connecting with. So, one of my besties, when she was on a dating site, and she was like, "I'm never going to go on a dating site," she said, I wrote a little bit about myself, and my criteria was that if the person didn't read anything, I knew that, and I looked at the pictures, which is okay, but I just wasn't interested in that. And that's a strategy that totally worked. And I think showing up as yourself and not, and having some sort of standards around what you expect or requirements is always a good idea.
Yeah, 100%. Just being clear. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Showing up as yourself, not anyone else, and not giving them what they want right up, because that's what you mentioned in the question, right?
Yeah.
So,
and it's hard.
Having set things that you
Like
need.
people are trying to be. That's a whole other topic. I just feel like there's like 50 different topics.
Yeah, there are.
Showing up as yourself. It's like, what does that even mean? What does that even look like? Why is showing up as someone else? Like, there's so many factors. But like you said, being clear in your communication.
Yeah. And you said a young girl, so it's like, we talked about that pleasing thing. So a guy wants a girl like this. I mean, what do we know? A guy wants this or a guy wants that. They can, go and look for that. But what do you want? What are you looking for? What are your standards around this? And when you are, let's say, on the dating site, or if she's in person meeting these men, it's like, well, what if I just risk not being something that he wants, and I just show up as me and answer the questions and speak about things that are important to me? And then he'll either like it or not. And that's okay.
Yeah. And it's tough because it's like, well, back to where we started, which is it's tough not to be like, tough to be the odd one out, because our whole thing around being young girls is that should be like, it's all about material and what you can offer. Getting that partner, it's a lot.
Oh,
like,
my goodness.
People ask me, like, we got our 15th anniversary next year, and it's not even about the length of time. It truly isn't. It's not a dictator of how good people are, compatible, or happy. But it's so hard to even dilute it down to people what it means, because it's like no one knows what they're doing, literally. Like, some get lucky, some settle, some don't, some, like, it all looks different, which is all fine. But I always say to other girls, it's like just being yourself, like be you, focus on you. And then the byproduct is your relationships.
So true.
Like,
it sounds
like, okay, it's hard, but then you actually, like, your threshold gets better over time. You get used to it. You're like, oh, it's fine. Why am I not being liked? It's okay. I can't.
Exactly. So it's like, you've got to start somewhere. It's kind of like with boundaries. You got to be, for the lack of a better word, rejected somewhere. So Angela, don't forget that you get to choose as well. So this guy is not like, or this guy or whoever the guys are, they're not the only ones choosing. We're choosing each other. And, when it's a healthy situation, then good. If it's not healthy in some kind of way and someone likes you for something that they think you are, or what they would like you to be, then I don't know.
Like owning your power.
Yeah. That's the move.
Me, like, I'm cool with being on my own. It's all right. Like, I had a friend come over, we got chatting, and I said, oh, Andrew and I can do life without each other. Oh, but could you, could you? It's like, yeah, we could, actually. Yes, we could. Actually, it's a whole lot easier, because you made to me.
Andrew, are you listening? Are you listening, Andrew?
Like, he loves it. Like, he gave me a shit today, but I still love it. But it's like the whole thing of choosing. It's the choosing. It's a day of choosing. That's what people don't understand. It's like going to the gym. I don't like it. I don't want to go, but I know I feel good after. And that's the same as relationship. I don't like to have the high patience. I don't like to have to, but keep doing it. You keep doing it. You keep showing up. And sometimes you don't show up. And sometimes you show up half. And it's all okay. But it's like people just think like, oh, but yeah, you guys couldn't live with it without each other. It's like we can. People can. People. Right. Yeah.
And I think that that's a really cool way of thinking about it. It reminds me of makes me think of my friends who renew their vows to each other every year because they're like, well, we're gonna negotiate this every year because we want to make sure that we're showing up for each other. So yeah, again, that idea about if Angela's going down the path or I'm a young girl and I need to get married and I need to be, blah blah blah. It's like, well, this needs to be both ways. It needs to be reciprocal and you need to continue to choose. And this can be renegotiated. And it's not about how long a relationship is. It's about how good it is.
100%. And also, I have lovely Monique. She's amazing. She's actually part of the Croatian Women in Leadership. She's and she sent in a question. She sent in a few questions, which I love, but on her top 3. So we're trying to get through them quickly. But it says, how do you handle the frustration experience when people close to you don't respect your boundaries? And how do you set boundaries with us when it's people you live with? Well, it's people you live with. So
does she have an option to move out? Depends on how much is crossing the boundary.
Not even with all these bloody rate rises. But yeah, what would I speak to her?
What's the first question?
How do you handle
frustration?
So you don't respect your boundaries, number one. And how boundaries with it when it's with.
Could we do one at a time? Because I'm really forgetful. And so how do you
handle the frustration experience close to you don't respect your boundaries?
Okay. So the frustration aspect is kind of like that's your own experience. So with that, I would say depending, it's very broad. I don't know the context, but I would say, is the frustration with you because you've crossed your own boundaries? Are you have you expressed what they are? Have you repeated them? And do you honor them yourself? That's the first place to go. And I would say sometimes the best place to go ourselves, because that communicates to other people how you would like to be treated and what's important to you and why. The second thing is, so the first thing is yourself. Second is how have you communicated to them? And have you been clear? How have they responded? And then that feedback gives you a lot of the answer. And I don't really know what that answer is, so I can't really go further than that. If she was to say, I've spoke to this person and this is what my boundary is, and they downright dismissed it and they laughed at it or they're not going to honor it in any way. And then you got to ask yourself, am I willing to stay in a living arrangement that looks like this and feels like this, And this is presuming that your boundary is important. If it's not, meaning like if it's a malleable boundary, if it's not like a thin non-negotiable, then it is about managing your own expectations around what's okay, because you are living there with other people. So perhaps other people have boundaries as well, and they are as important as yours. So it's about looking at those 3 things.
Yeah.
Myself, the other person, how clear I was, and, is this a non-negotiable? And if it's not, then how can I manage my expectations?
What you said before is like, it comes at the cost. Yeah. So it's like how we
get to choose.
Yeah, correct. And it's like each choice is going to cost me something.
Yeah.
I want this kind to have to leave, and someone send me a piece
or
of
negotiate.
Negotiate. Yeah.
You can say, look, this is really important to me. Like, this is hugely important to me, and we're living together here. So what I'm asking you to do is X, Y, Z, please. So in return, I'm willing to blah, blah, blah. Or ask the person, what would you need in return for this to be honored as a boundary? So there's a lot of room in between all of that. And I'm just giving you, I'm glossing over these because it's questions and it's,
100%.
quick end.
Yeah. So she spoke question number 2. On a self-level awareness, how can you tell whether the boundary you want to set is a healthy one or if it's something that's inspired by toxic mindset movement on social media? She said, what's a healthy boundary compared to an unhealthy boundary that you can set?
Okay, that's a good question. I would say an unhealthy boundary would be a good place again to start would be with you. So if you're getting ideas from social media, um, that's not a good place for. It's a good place for information, but not necessarily for any therapeutic stuff of this sort, um, because every situation is different. But um, a healthy boundary is something that honors your health, so your physical and mental health. That's a good way of looking at it. If you're setting an unhealthy boundary, you're giving ultimatums. You are requiring people to do something that's out of their integrity um, or out of who they are. So it compromises them. And I guess with an unhealthy boundary, uh, you're compromising them in some kind of way
Yeah.
and not giving them the space
Yeah.
to show up authentically with you. To set a healthy boundary would mean to kind of go in again, pause and just be with yourself and ask, what is it? What is it that I feel like I need in that moment? If I'm frustrated, like say with the question before, with these people in the house, let's start with me. What's going on with me? And once you deal with that, whatever's left over, you can transfer into a boundary. Because a lot of the times we'll have reactions because we're triggered
Yeah.
and we're not emotionally managing ourselves. You know what I mean? And then other people are copying it. So that's something to really be aware of as well.
And it's hard because I think it's so, because obviously young people have been brought up on technology and the internet and whatever, whereas like our generation wasn't. So, often I just think like, well, just go offline, just whatever, but at the same time, it's like so integrated into their system and into their DNA and their part of life that it can get quite overwhelming out there. Like,
Totally.
it's like everything's online, like dating and catching up with your friends and being online. It's like what we talk about, like this online, which is great, but at some stage to cap it, and the whole thing about being more, doing more, it's consuming more, and then it clouds your argument.
Yeah. And I think what you're talking about there, sorry, we just had a break. Oh, shut up, right?
Yeah, I was just saying because it clouds your own judgment of how you think you should be living your own life. Like you're not going inwards, it's more projecting what's on the outside.
Yes. So we're having like a few delays here and there. So then I'm like, okay. And then I hear and then it pauses and so I apologize.
Internet. But what you said, like going inwards, going inside, like reflecting, taking time out, going for a walk, or like you said, having a nap, tapping into your social circle, people you trust, and going to your therapist, going to a psychologist, or touching base with your mentor, whatever your resources are at that time.
Yeah.
If you need a perspective, then reaching out to others is good as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it does come back always to the personal boundaries before any others. Because when you say like no technology, it's easy to say, but we all get our information from online these days. So it's not about not being there. It's about being mindful where you go and where you get your information and whether that matches. Like I was saying before, some people want to go to a healer or Reiki or like, so that's what you then follow because that's aligned with you. Not everyone's right for everyone. So it's about knowing your own personal boundary and knowing where to tap it.
And that comes from experience, lived experience, life. Like this thing that there's no way to dodge the system. There's no it's like you are confrontation, you are not going to see eye to eye. You move out of one place, you're going to go to another place, you're going to have another set of problems there. So
you experiment with it.
Ongoing journey. I think acceptance is huge.
Yeah. And allowing yourself to be curious and to explore because you don't know until you know. And you're only going to know when you take action and then you're going to get feedback from that. So, that's information for you.
And feedback.
And then go, okay, that's not.
It's hard. Like feedback is hard.
I know.
And the thing is when I worked, I worked for a big company and it was worldwide and many years old. And I remember I was, in a call center. And honestly, it was the best learning experience because I was dealing with people that were broken down. So their cars were broken down all over the country. But then immediately after I helped them, I had to ask them for feedback. What did they think about my service? And it was so I had about 100 minutes to do all of this. Mine was the only that could talk the language and whatnot, not diving too much into the details, but I had to ask for feedback. And even when I worked in finance and in the bank, like I had to ask straight away for feedback. What did they think about this experience after I had just gone through all the steps? And honestly, I'm so
Yeah.
glad that I did that, and I did that in a work setting because it helped me in my life.
Yeah.
It helped me in my life. Like then it became natural tasks. Like, well, how can I change? What can I do? It allowed me that space, which wouldn't have learned that voluntarily unless I was forced. So like you
Yeah.
said, yeah, asking for feedback because we think we're one way to another person, but the way they're seeing us is completely different.
Totally different.
And like
You got it.
with the book that you read, like what's normal? What's normal anymore even? Really, what's the standard, right? Who decides that?
Yeah.
So but her question was, she said, what are some tips on how to feel more confident in setting boundaries, especially after you set them and you're worried people are mad at you?
Yeah, I think we touched on this before, and that is to practice on small steps. So take small steps, practice with people that are maybe that you find easier to do this with. Don't go to like the hardest person in your life to set the first boundary, and expect that they will find it difficult because we find it difficult to as people to adapt to change in general, right? And then accept.
Yeah,
So accepting that this is just kind of where they're at, and maybe I'm sometimes in a place where I can't do something for someone. So if I want that courtesy or care or compassion to have space to say no, then I need to extend that to the other person as well.
100%. I think it's like, yeah, what value are you giving or willing to give, and is what you're getting in return enough? And only you can dictate that. Really, nobody else.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes the whole realization of it isn't, and then you have to move on. And that's all.
yeah.
Okay.
And exactly. And the thing is, all these things that we're talking about today, it's, we're going to react however we're going to react because we all have our personal histories that are different. So, my trigger is not going to be the same as yours. Someone makes a statement, you might be like, cool as a cucumber, I might react. So that's my stuff. And, you can't ever be responsible for my stuff.
Yeah.
I can tell you about it and say, Ivana, can you please help me with this? This is a really tough area for me. I struggle when, blah, blah, blah happens. And then you help me or not, or support me through that or whatever. But we can't be responsible for how other people feel. How they feel and how they react is totally within their own scope of control. And they're responsible for it, whether they take control of it or not.
100%. I agree. And it's a fine art. It's like what you said, it's a dance because I didn't really know how to be, vulnerable, how to ask for help, how to, do all that. And I learned how to do all of that, how to ask for help, reach out, do all these things. But now I'm also learning how to not go outside and how to go in. So, now
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It's like, okay, I learned how to do that. That's great. Now I'm learning how to do something, and that's okay too. So
Yeah,
sometimes you need to reach out. Sometimes you need to go in, and it's just
exactly.
wrong and right. So only you can dictate that. But I love all
It's a
the
dance.
conversation today's 7. The last question I had was from Zoyana, and she said maybe it's around boundaries. And I was like, wow, with that quit, like it's so like clearly we all can need work, okay, with boundaries. And this goes in the workplace as well, because mind you,
Oh,
with
totally.
personal relationships, but this can translate over into work relationships
Everywhere.
also everywhere, because
Everywhere.
relationships exist everywhere. And it's what they say, I don't know who said it, but it's like the quality of your relationships is the quality of your life. And I can't remember
100%.
who said that, but it was really freaking good.
Might have
But
been Tony Robbins, but I think he was a student of Jim Rohn. So maybe it was like someone early, like in personal development area, NLP back in the 70s. But yeah, I agree.
But
I agree.
then, she said, maybe this question's around boundaries. She said, how important is it to be honest with your partner from day one? Is that the key to a healthy relationship, or do men or women perceive that as controlling?
Cool. Okay, my personal views on this from life and from having done work with people for a long time is unless it's something unkind, to the other person, and something they don't have direct influence over, I think honesty all the way.
Yeah.
So,
Us Balkan women, we are very honest. And I've got to say, like, Andrea doesn't have an easy task. Like, we had a situation today, and I feel like she asked this question. I thought she was talking to me because we had this bloody situation this morning, and that's the thing, like honesty. And, sometimes husbands or men under the impression of, oh, if I don't, it's not necessarily lying, I'm just not divulging. I'm not, it's like, no, if you don't say something, it's a lie. Or like, it's also, a sex thing. Obviously, men and women, like, we do think different. But then also you've got that cultural thing, which like we have been raised in a different way. So I feel like often with me and Andrew, it's also like, even though he's Italian and we get the whole family and community and all that, it is also a cultural boundary where
I think it's
something a certain way and then it gets taken out of context. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it comes back to the point you were making earlier, which is your culture also so much influences how you perceive yourself and what kind of parameters you allow for yourself. We can't disentangle the two because, a part of that is if you go to Rome, you act like a Roman, right? So there's a part of that assimilation and there's also your own way of doing that assimilation.
Yeah.
So again, the ultimate person choosing this is you. Because I'm presuming, you choose where you live and who you socialize with and all the rest of it. But it comes down to what works for you and what honesty means to you. I think if you're going to say to someone, be harsh to someone or hard or tell them something about their appearance, I've got a video on that. You're saying something that they can't immediately change and you're cruel about that. I don't think that's a good way to go and just kind of wrap that up in honesty or this is how things are. I'm not advocating for that.
Yes.
What I'm saying is kind of being in an assertive way, being honest. So I feel like this when blah, 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 or this is what my experience is, because you can only speak for yourself. You don't know how the other person is experiencing that. So I do think, especially with the relationship, I don't think that it's, how did she say in the question? Do you think it's manipulative?
She
To
said,
be honest.
what needs it to be honest with your partner from day one? Is that the key to a healthier relationship ? Or do men or women perceive that as controlling?
Yeah, I wouldn't perceive honesty as controlling. I would perceive the opposite of controlling, because if you're withholding information, you're not showing up as you, and that the other person's relating to something that they think you are, not what you are.
Yeah.
Because now they think you're this, but you actually mean that.
Yeah.
So to me, that's more controlling, because they're trying to control your perception of them. Instead of saying, actually, I'm having a hard time in this relationship. I'm struggling in this friendship. I'm not sure if this is what I want anymore. That's a lot riskier, but also honest.
Yeah. And I think, and a lot of people would, say something and be like, I'm just being honest. But,
I'm not advocating for that. No.
Exactly. And that's
mindfully honest.
Yeah. And a lot of people would have a different idea of what it is to be honest, what it means to be honest, because from someone like their intention is good, but then their delivery is bad. It's like, but I'm honest,
Yeah. So, we're not advocating for that. Being careless with other people's feelings. Yeah.
I feel like that was really great. And thank you, Boyana, and the girls that
Thank you, Boyana. And Angela, and was it Monique?
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I'm glad they sent it in because I should have done it today, but I decided to not this afternoon. So, that's okay.
Good for you.
I should have celebrate my little naps. But look, for anybody who wants to find you, obviously, to conclude today's chat, is they can jump on Instagram. Can you give them the handles? Can you give them all the links and how people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, I can send you those. So the website's now up again. www.psychology-central.com.au. And on Instagram, it's Practical Psychologist, and the same is on Facebook. So I'll have a little gift there for your listeners on the link that leads to website. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome.
So
So then
check that out.
just get in touch with you, mention that they listen to the podcast, and then
Yes, please. Yeah.
and if
Yeah.
we want to book you in different time zones, how that look as well, they just send you an email, they go through your website, contact form.
Yeah. So they can, there's plenty of ways to contact in all those three areas. So they can, any way that suits them. But the time zones work really well. So this is another thing that was like a tick, right? It's like we're 8 or 9 hours apart. So what that means is like, I used to have one late session in Australia, and there would, one late evening, sorry, in Australia. So those were always booked out. And now I get to do 4 till 9, 5 days a week. So it's like, all your after work needs. So the stuff it's always evening.
Like a
So
nice
for evening
I
people.
love that.
Yeah.
4 till 9. I mean, some people maybe want to work but nights, but that's awesome. Clear times that
Yeah.
we get some vitamin D, like just go in the ocean, walk around, go hiking. Oh, that's perfect. Like,
Yeah.
glad we've created. It's been awesome to just, like watch you flourish into being your best self and seeing that your family is well and healthy and just enjoying living back in the homeland. We just,
Thank you so much.
Thank you, someone that's over there. I'm like, what's the message here? I'm like, like right now for us to move is not feasible, but I am doing things in a small way that make me feel close to home.
That's it.
And that's why this podcast. So
I love that.
I think if anything, from today that I want people to sort of get is you might not be able to move your whole life straight away, or you might not be able to get 8 hours worth of sleep because, you have a newborn baby. But I do things in small ways, small ways. I think it's just changing your perception around what that all means.
Exactly.
Cars to feel closer to home. And it's moving, getting on a plane and selling everything and going. And then maybe I'll get there one day, maybe I won't, but that's okay. It's just like being content here in the now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
well, I
I
get
agree.
to learn in different ways. So I really want to just, like booking a time and making it all happen and working within our hours and days. Puzzle, but we made it happen. We made it work.
We did.
Want something, you just make it happen, and you make sacrifices. And like it's literally 12:30 here at night, and I'm like,
Oh my God, you're amazing. Like, but
guys, I'm raging. I'm having a party.
oh my God, with your cocktail in hand somewhere. But can I just say, I love what you're doing, and thank you. And I think what you said before, not having the questions prepared, it's like I celebrate that because it's like, well, questions are great. Thank the girls for the questions. Hopefully, we've been able to answer those questions to some degree, at least in this kind of setting. But you took a nap, and it's like, well, we always will have questions, and there's so much to talk about. We could go on and on and on. But I think it is really important to take those baby steps, and it's amazing that you're doing that. So it's awesome. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the experience.
And it's just been so, great connecting. I'm so glad you came alive on the interweb. You came on Instagram and you joined the clan and your Instagram and now it's like on Facebook. And I really encourage people to get on your Facebook because you do ask that really great thought-provoking question. So I think, if anybody wants to just, pause and if you are consume the right content, and your content is awesome. And I know you put a lot of time and effort into it. So, and you're all about your own, self-growth and development. And even though people think, oh, you're a psychologist and, psychologists, and for some reason it's a notion that like you're a psychologist, like people just have it all together.
Oh, God, no.
And people are like, that's so valid. I want to be like them. But then I
guarantee you we don't. It's a lie.
Yeah, it's smoke and mirrors. But it's like, we also have people in their corner that help them be that way too.
Yeah.
So I just think what profession you're in, it's like everyone has that support system and they have those coping strategies. So I encourage for anybody to get in touch with you. And I want to thank all the listeners from all over. And
thank you.
I was going to say all around the world. But and I would love to have done an episode in Croatian, but honestly, like not everybody can speak the language, that has moved away.
Yeah.
English is always the most popular way, but if they want to consult with you in our language as well, can they? Like, is it English and
yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome because we do have a mixed bag. So thank you.
Yeah. They can do both.
I love
Carla, thank you so much.
keep on
Thank you. Likewise.
get ready for like a 6-hour copy date.
I reckon.
I'm just in an old chair,
You know,
eating and drinking our lives away.
yeah. We really did this interview today, Croatian way. That's the way. It's like, you know,
I
just
know.
not the time period.
People are like, I need 90 minutes. And then they're like, I can only do 60. And I'm like, I'm sorry. It's, we can try and work with that within that, depending on the topics. But I know it always blows out. It always does. So I always like to leave more room for that and let people be prepared.
Yeah.
So, today's been it's been awesome. It's been so much fun. So
Loved it.
appreciate
Thank
you.
you so much. Really appreciate it.
Ciao.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Ciao.
So that was the episode. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And as ever, if you did, please consider sharing it with your loved ones and leaving me a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. It really does make a difference to the number of Balkan sisters that we can reach with the brilliant wisdom that my guests and I share. Thanks for being here. I doviđenja.